Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. A bunch of things to get to. The MAGA implosion with TPUSK here. When the left starts covering it, and you can tell which side they're going to be on. In a second. Um, there's a roast joke about Rob Reiner I want to get to. Al Franken that seems to be masked in truth. And then there's the Epstein cover up, which is pretty much dominating the left leaning news media. And then Don Lemons gets completely duped by a bogus Epstein video, I guess, that's going around about him committing suicide or trying to. So a bunch of stuff here. Let's start here.
Reporter Brandy Zadrozny, who just returned from covering the event in Phoenix, Arizona, also with us, MS Now Political.
That's this woman, and she is a horrible person. Like she is for MSNBC. She is MS Now. She works for them, but she's like a blogger. And her big breakthrough was when she went after anti-vaxxers and was telling them. And she's like one of these anti-conspiracy theory people, very much like that guy Donny O'Sullivan and that other guy Brian Stelz. I have a Stelzer thing. That's great. Stelz has lost some weight, but it hasn't helped his voice. It hasn't helped his lack of testosterone. But she is these people who go after truthers. But they get to now because the truth community has been totally decimated by the Trump stuff, right? Like every truther that pushed for Trump and ignored all the stuff has been compromised. Is just their decision making is bad, or their shell or whatever it is, their shell. So there's just the QBs, and so the truth community is. There's a lot to be able to go after now because of what Trump has turned into, and this whole thing. But here.
Analyst Brendan Buck, who served as a senior advisor to both House Speakers John Boehner and Paul Ryan, and MS Now contributor David Drucker, senior writer at The Dispatch. Brandy, this year's event was really in stark contrast to what we saw last year after Trump's big election win, and it was all about MAGA unity. What is it that's dividing the movement so starkly now that it was, put on display at this conference or this event?
Well, it's crazy. This is lots, Brandy.
Yeah, they're not winning at the moment, and they know that. Like, we talked to a bunch of people, and they really feel that. And so they're looking left and they're looking right, and they're saying, whose fault is it that we're not winning? And so what they've sort of determined is, one of the biggest leaders isn't there anymore. Charlie Kirk was murdered, right? And so they're trying to figure out who is going to take his place. So what you see all of these sort of lower tier creators and influencers and operatives. You have Steve Bannon and Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly and Benny Johnson and all these folks sort of fighting to say who is going to be the big man on campus now that
they wouldn't even say Candace Owens' his name.
Charlie Kirk is no longer there.
Look at this thing here. This is a great moment. It's a great moment.
Sort of fighting to say who is going to be the big man on campus now that Charlie Kirk is no longer there. And the second thing you have a lot of issues that were sort of on the fringes, but now have crept into the mainstream. And the biggest one is really the anti-Semitism on display, and specifically how...
Anti-Semitism on display. Like, that's how you're going to characterize it? Anti-Semitism on display. Now, she's supposed to be hyper-liberal, this person. This blogger or whatever it is, some bogus podcaster. You know that the mainstream media knows they're fucked when they start bringing in they start doing podcasts themselves, and they start putting. There's a thing I was watching. It might even be on this. It might be a video clip here, or it might be something I saw when I was eating. But there was a guest being interviewed by whoever it is, or one of the contributors, CNN or MSNBC, and the person had a microphone in front of him. Like one of those mics you would see at a podcast. And then they're all doing podcasts. So they know that their format is fucked. Like, their format no longer works. And if you're trying to bring in young liberals, the young liberals got there first on Israel. And the conservative liberals have been brought in. The young conservative liberals. and they're not for Israel, and that does not make them anti-Semitic. They are not for this war in Gaza and it's all this other bullshit, right? I was just watching Dave Smith. The video popped up. He has a podcast, and he was showing the Benny Shapiro thing, and he was talking about how like he's debated these guys on this thing, and Ben Shapiro was talking about how Candace Owens was disparaging TPUSK and Erica, and every podcaster had should have the duty to call these people out. Everyone with a microphone should just denounce Candace Owens and these other people. And not for the reason I, talk about Candace Owens sucking, but because they are, he brings up, she implicated Mossad, and it's all about Israel. And everybody who surrounded him knows that he hated Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro. Like he didn't, these multiple people have come out and said that, including Tucker Carlson. So, and, Candace Owens used to work for him. And, this Dave Smith was saying that they never want to talk about the issue, because when you talk about the issue, the facts are brutal. Like if you talk about the relationship between America and Israel, you talk about what's happened in Gaza and Palestine, the numbers of dead Palestinians and the amount of land that's been grabbed is, undisputable, right? If you just leave it at those two things, you get rid of the victim consciousness and all the different narratives. And so, it is something where it isn't about anti-Semitism at all. It's American kids, young people, are not ever going to probably come back to the mindset that they're, that has been indoctrinated into so many other people, especially right-wing conservative Republicans, evangelicals, and they're fucked on that. Israel's fucked, and this, this whole Trump is fucked on it, and they're aware of it. So to call this anti-Semitism, right? This is classic liberal stuff here.
Mainstream. And the biggest one is really the anti-Semitism on display, and specifically how people view Israel. Now, Israel has taken up a large portion of people's brains, but while Charlie Kirk was...
What does that mean, taking up a large portion of their brains? Are they land grabbing people's brains? Are they killing Palestinian children in people's brains? Right? Are they killing your brain cells like they're killing their Palestinian children? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, this is the weirdest shit ever, right?
alive, there was another group of people called Groypers, led by this white supremacist named Nick Fuentes, and they would actually go protest Turning Point events because they wanted to move them more against Israel, right? And so they come straight out, and it's very anti-Semitic. It is that, you know, the Jews control everything, blah blah blah, and that's
blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah.
also turned into conspiracy.
Look at this. This woman's an anti-conspiracy theorist. That's her whole thing. But it's like totally like she's propped up. You can tell she's an Israeli shill, right?
Because what
working for big vax. I mean, pushing the vax and all that shit.
Somebody like Candace Owens, who was a Turning Point USA employee, friend of Charlie Kirk, and now she has created this whole fever dream, really, that Israel or Egyptian planes or, a combination of all of these things, Turning Point USA itself, conspired to kill Charlie. So if that sounds confusing, it's confusing on the ground there too. People are
It's not confusing at all, because you're leaving out like all the good details and all the real stuff about it. You're leaving out the history. You're leaving out the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu himself said, we got to get a Jewish billionaire to buy Twitter. I mean, TikTok, because we need to put out more disinformation. And he was talking to a bunch of influencers he was literally paying. He's paying these influencers, Israel, pro-Israel lobby is paying these influencers to tell their audience lies about Israel and try to keep this relationship going. And he's using American money because they don't have money on their own. They don't have any sort of resources and things to make them wealthy. They don't have oil or something there to pay for their own wars and their own bullshit. They have to get our taxpayer dollars, $300 billion in the last so many years, and all the rest of it, all these weapons. I mean, trillions of dollars probably when it comes down to it. And then they take that money, and then money that they have the people with dual citizenship who make lots of money here in America, and are really pro-Israel. They're Israeli assets, and they they get into key positions and they buy, media outlets, and they buy influence and all these things, right? They bought Charlie Shekels. And so it's not that hard to understand when you put it in framework like that. And that Charlie Shekels was his own position changed right before he was killed, and which was, would implicate Israel. And Donald Trump himself is a shackled up piece of shit. And, they don't ever talk about Trump being they criticize Trump about everything. They criticize everything that Trump does, like the guy sneezes and they do a 2-hour thing about, any number of subjects. What does that sneeze mean? Is he going senile? Is he snorting coke? This speculative bullshit, right? They bring in all these people. Everything's about how Trump sucks. And they never once criticized that he's, by the Bibi Netanyahu's his own definition of Trump as the greatest friend Israel's ever had. And that Trump is, bragging about the shekels that he got, the $150 million that he first talked about from whatever that woman's name, I'll think of it in a bit, or Miriam Adelson, and the other $100 million he got from, that was non-legitimate, right, for his campaign. He got $250 million from her. They talk about all the money he got from Elon Musk, right, but not her. They never talk about that, right? They never talk about Trump's vaccine. So these are the two issues this woman's, her so-called podcast or whatever she does, right?
I don't know what to believe. We don't know who's in charge. It was a big old mess.
Well, and maybe it's encouraging to know, though, that are some checks and balances within the movement where people aren't just accepting the crazy things outright. Brendan, this wasn't...
Like, what crazy things? But the crazy things that, that an individual shooter who was in love with a furry transgender dude, and some 21-year-old kid with a rifle that he put together on the roof using maybe possibly a screwdriver and something else with a bullet that more than likely couldn't would have destroyed Charlie Kirk's whole face and head, right? That whole thing, did that whole thing happen? There's a clip. I got to go back and see if I did this. I'll do this in a bit, but anyway, I had a clip from a TV show where some guy was shot in the neck. I don't know if I showed you. It was the same TV show that had other things about the Charlie Kirk murder. Lowdown. But anyways, let's get back to this thing here.
A case of implied slights that happened. Speakers actually called each other out by name. Let's take a look at some of that.
So, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash implicating everyone...
Basic trash.
From French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out.
To hear calls for, deplatforming and denouncing people at a Charlie Kirk event, I'm like, what? This is hilarious. Yeah, this is hilarious.
Ben, I've known you a long time, brother. You can't handle the truth. Let's face it, Ben Shapiro is the farthest thing from MAGA. Let's be blunt.
Brendan, how serious were these?
So really, it was just Ben Shapiro. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been talked about, right? Like there was some discord there. And Ben Shapiro is a complete paid Israel shill, where, one of those guys who's an anti-Zionist Jewish, whatever it is. It might have been whatever his guy's name is. But they were talking about how Ben Shapiro, right now, that they had to cancel their credit cards, the thing's tanking. It's because as soon as the right wing, the right wing has moved towards a different position on Israel. Remember, the Christian evangelicals were all, all about this, all about Israel. But now these younger generation and TPUSK audience and these young MAGA people are all moving away from that. And everyone in general, the thing was just too much. And so I don't know if you can hear the guinea fowl. They're behind the house. making a racket. So that's what Ben Shapiro's whole job was, and he was propped up. He was propped up by Megyn Kelly, who's a shill on Fox News. They're very pro-Israel there because of the ownership there. Max Blumenthal is the guy who he said Ben Shapiro was completely manufactured, because you can see the guy's unlikable. He's like the total dweeb, just like the way he speaks, all that kind of stuff. And so it was one guy who got up and, he's already tanking. His support is tanking. And now he's pissed everybody off in the movement, in the MAGA movement. And, it's ineffective, right? Because the majority of people they're not swayed by what he got up and said. Just undecided people. And so it's one guy got up there, and, it was like an act of desperation for something that can't be stopped.
Political attacks. Were you surprised they were so public?
Yeah, well, good on Ben Shapiro for going into the Lions Den and saying what he actually thinks. That's tough.
Brendan Buck. Good on him. Look at all these Israeli shills. Good on him for going to the Lions Den. It means that the right wing has always been the pro-Israel side. I mean, the left wing has been, Obama was always trying to, their lefts, and then now with it was the left-leaning liberals all on the college campus that you guys were dealing with. Now, you have these things now where people are coming together on Israel and Epstein, on the left and the right, and the far left and the far right, which is always disturbing for these motherfuckers. Because if you get the far right and the far left to agree, then you're fucked, right? And when they agree on Israel, you're really fucked, and, Epstein's a part of that. And so, all the left is now covering Epstein because it's a damaging thing for Trump, and it's all connected to Israel and then this younger generation, all that stuff. And, there's going to be a view on this, like whatever the mainstream media decides to call the truth, right? But to call Ben Shapiro a hero for going into the Lions Den.
I mean, look, there's been these people on the right for a long time. And, when I was an active member in government, in the party, it was easy to just sort of ignore them. But these people's have had their audiences grow to an enormous degree, and it's hard to ignore them at this point. And so credit to Ben Shapiro for taking them on. I think this is what happens, though, when you have a party that is largely written off the middle.
It's written off the middle. They've just gone extreme. Their anti-Semitism and their extremism.
Make no attempt to communicate with independent voters or people in the middle. You don't have a whole lot of option to write off people on the far right. And that's why I think you had J.D. Vance come in and say, we want to be uniters. We want everybody in the party, regardless of who that is. And I think that's a real shame. When you are a party, having some degree of moral clarity, I think, is pretty important. Republicans were pretty quick and clear to denounce anti-Semitism on the left, and I'm glad they did. They would have a lot more standing if they would be more comfortable being like Ben Shapiro and calling it out on the right when they see it too.
Look at these shackled up motherfuckers that nobody listens to. This video was taken down because it was what I was going to lead with, and I couldn't figure out. And then they reposted it. They said the video wasn't available, but then they reposted it. So I don't know what that was about. Let's one more thing here. I'll see what this guy says.
More of the message from the vice president calling for unity.
Okay, we don't need to hear that shit. That's more. We got plenty more to cover here. So I have a lot of clips on Epstein, and the lack of whatever it is, and I was covering this a little bit. So it's really interesting that the left, which has been saying for a long time that the Epstein list is a joke and all these things, and then all of a sudden it was an issue for Trump and they jumped on it. But it shows you how desperate everybody is, right? Like they flip-flop at everything now. It used to be that the left wing and the extreme left wing was the anti-allopathic medicine. The reason you have organic foods and the reason you have herbal supplements and things is almost exclusively because of the left. There's, right-wing people who are, country people that did, alternative type of medicine as well because they grew up with it. But for the most part, the Whole Foods and all that stuff is a left-wing thing. And how quickly, when Trump came out And I must when Biden and the administration came out and started naming anti-vaxxers as far right-wing people. But the people that I had known before who were anti-vaxxers were mostly left-leaning people who weren't vaccinating their kids, and then some right-wing people. There's this, and it's always kind of fringe, like far left, far right. And, then all the stuff Kennedy was doing, and he had these support from left-wing people who were, anti, I mean, he was getting these women asking questions about autism for their kids and stuff like that. When he originally was, pushing for some of these investigations to the vaccine schedule or whatever it was back when he was, not a piece of shit Trump person. But it's now everything's reversed, right? Like it becomes like, the things that what was happening with Obama when Obama was the worst person on whistleblowers and was getting us into all kinds of wars and stuff with Libya and, all these other things. And it was weird because it was like that Democrats were supposed to be the party of peace and not the warmongers, right? And, and then the right started flipping over on some of these things. And it's just going back and forth. These issues are going back and forth, right? Like, all of a sudden they're taking different sides. I mean, they still suck. They're still on the wrong side, both of them. But this is how desperate they become.
More chaos around the Epstein files. A new batch of tens of thousands of documents that appeared to be from the Epstein files briefly were posted on the Justice Department's website yesterday before then disappearing without explanation.
They got this down, Willie. Cold, calculated, ruthlessly efficient. They have thought through this like for months.
It's incredible. The material included thousands of additional government documents and emails, as well as several dozen videos from the Bureau of Prisons. The files contain wide-ranging references to President Trump, but mentioned, of course, does not demonstrate criminal wrongdoing. The just being mentioned doesn't mean you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
The Justice Department.
Yeah. Anybody associated with this guy's fucked. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he just took a photo with you and hey, Michael Jackson, there's a billionaire wants to take a photo with you. Okay, sure. It doesn't matter. Like what reason you had. You were associated with fucking Jeffrey Epstein. There's a young girl sitting on Bill Clinton's lap. There's that picture out there and shit like that. And, the right wing wants to make it about that, of course, Trumpers. But the reality is that, it's this guy got around and people partied with him, and all those people are now they're fucked, and they should be fucked because if they didn't do anything with this guy, they're scumbag. They're elitist people, and, this is what happens when you party with a pedo, and,
Did not immediately respond to questions about why the documents had been posted and then apparently removed.
Did you see what Bill Clinton's spokesperson did yesterday? It was great. They're like, okay, yeah, all right. You want to show like a picture or two randomly? How about a little context? Release everything.
Yeah.
Why don't you release everything? Why are you just like that? It was so clear they were trying to embarrass Bill Clinton. So out of all of the tens of thousands of documents, they release these 2 or 3 that'll get everybody talking about Bill Clinton. It's a whole, look over there, look at the bird over there. Don't look at the documents and see what's not in there. References to Donald Trump, all this stuff blacked out. Pay attention to Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton's spokesperson comes out and says, I'll tell you what, here's a great idea. You are required under the law, which you're breaking, to release all the documents.
Yeah, Bill Clinton is obviously a piece of shit, right? I mean, we knew this beforehand. So Bill Clinton had sex in the Oval Office with you can't even call it sex. It was weird shit with an 18-year-old intern, right? The whole Monica Lewinsky scandal. And, then Epstein, then, whatever. She was just a year away from being illegal, right? Like she was barely legal. And so that's already fucked and all that stuff. But no one cares about Bill Clinton. He's a fucking wraith. He's had that heart surgery and he's like a shadow of himself. He's the same age as Joe Biden and Trump, which is disturbing because when you see Bill Clinton talk, he's like, he's gone. And, but the right isn't that concerned about Bill Clinton. We all know he's a piece of shit, right? And so, the more they do this, the more that, Trump tries to distract, the worse it gets for him.
Release all the documents. We're fine. That's what Bill Clinton said. It was a great, strong response.
Yeah,
And
from a fucking guy who's a completely creepy motherfucker. All right, so let's go to the next one here. Okay, so I was watching the news. I was going through the channels actually when I was eating breakfast, and there was something underneath talking about this. I want to say a little bit more about what we were covering a moment ago, and now I forgot what it is. But Dave Smith, I listened to a little bit more of what he was saying about Turning Point USK, and he really goes in. I mean, really goes after Ben Shapiro in that video. And he was saying that he wasn't invited. He wasn't saying it like dickishly, but he said what he would have been talking about had he been invited to the Turning Point USK, and they had all kinds of people up there, those goofy pastors, all those people. So, Dave Smith was the direction that Charlie Kirk was going, and I guess he did another video which I haven't seen, where he's talking about the pro-Israel stuff to do with J.D. Vance. So, the Turning Point, which we already knew, they're putting up Ben Shapiro, and he was headlined, that whole thing, and then he created all the energy, like everybody's showing that Ben Shapiro clip, and then the reactions to it. But they didn't bring in any of the people. I mean, Tucker Carlson, of course, was there, but he had to be there, and I don't think he talked about Israel at all. I don't know if they told him not to or whatever, and I don't think Megyn Kelly really did either, other than that she brought up that that's the dividing point right now. But those weren't featured. It was Ben Shapiro that was featured, and then the reaction. That's what, and then, of course, Nicki Minaj stuff. But, Turning Point is clearly under Israeli control, and they're plummeting because they have no audience, right? And then they have no, they have no talent. So then this happened.
News. The Justice Department has released 30,000 more pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. According to the DOJ, some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election.
The Department of Justice has officially released nearly 30,000 more pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Some of the documents contain untrue and sensationalistic claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI right before the 2020 election. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. And if they have a shred of credibility, they certainly wouldn't have been weaponized against President Trump already. Nevertheless, our commitment to the law and transparency, the DOJ is releasing these documents with the legally required protections for Epstein's victims. Okay, so just in case any of you guys buy that bullshit, and I don't think any of my viewers do, any people here, unless some random fuck shows up. The reason that this part right here, if they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been used, they would have been weaponized against President Trump already. The Democrats never were Jeffrey Epstein people, because Bill Clinton is compromised and so many other people on the left. He was, the left has always been that this is some crazy right-wing conspiracy. They have never been pushing this agenda. And so them loading those documents into them loading Trump documents, false Trump documents into the Epstein file and not using them. I mean, they could have brought it up right before. They could have released those documents right before the election, just those documents like the right's doing right now, right before the election, and undermine Trump's credibility in the right and said, this is all the stuff we have on Trump in the Epstein files. They could have made it about Trump, right? Like it totally was about Trump, and they could have made it about Trump. So, there's no way they wouldn't have done that if that was, they wouldn't have loaded a bunch of fake Trump documents and not used it. What do you think they were they were backloading those things because they knew that Trump was going to release them, but they were going to let Trump win the presidency and wreck the country and destroy the Democratic Party in the process? Fucking, do you think that was their plan? Like to wait till 2026 to release all the documents and say, we finally got you. Look, you guys, you voted for the wrong guy. Like, what do you think? It's retarded. And so anybody believe in that, like this is just, and everyone should know, this is just like, not even, it says the U.S. Justice Department to make it look official, but this might as well just be one of Trump's tweets, one of his truths.
To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false, and if they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against President Trump already. Nevertheless, out of our commitment to the law and transparency, the DOJ is releasing these documents with the legally required protections for Epstein's victims. Let's just go over that real quick. That's the Department of Justice acting like President Trump's personal attorney.
That seems very objective. I disagree. This is very straight ahead, John.
We have disagreement on set on that. Preemptively putting out this information this morning. We're still sifting through it. Yet trying to color the perception by saying, hey, a lot of this stuff, not true at all. That post from the DOJ also includes a link to the latest batch of files. We're going through them. Here's some of what we can say we have found so far, including what appears to be this handwritten letter purportedly sent from Jeffrey Epstein to convicted sex offender Larry Nassar. The letter, postmarked just days after Epstein died, reads in part this way. Dear LN, as you know by now, I have taken the, quote, short route home. Good luck. We shared one thing, our love and caring for young ladies at the hope they'd reach their full potential.
Jesus Christ.
Our president shares our love of young, nubile girls. When a young beauty walked by, he loved to grab snatch, whereas we ended up snatching grub in the mess halls of the system. Life is unfair. Yours, Jay Epstein.
Is that a grab grub thing
Yeah,
there? Is he playing with grab and grub? Is that
seems that way. Let's keep going. The letter's envelope is stamped with a date 3 days after his death for reasons unknown. It's also not known whether the letter was ever verified or led to any other action. We should note that Epstein's contact to Nassar, who of course is the U.S. gymnastics team doctor convicted of sexually abusing scores of athletes, his connection there has been previously reported. Back in 2023, the Associated Press reported on an Epstein letter to Nassar that was found returned to sender in the jail's mailroom weeks after Epstein's death. This latest letter appears to be the same that the AP referenced via a FOIA request of Epstein investigative docs. And Joe, let's just pause on this one for a second.
Yeah.
First of all, there's that odd mention of taking a short route home, coming just days before Epstein's death. So we can speculate as to what that could be. But also flat out says that, talking about President Trump, who was in office at the time, also appreciating the virtues of young girls.
All right, so there's that. Somewhere here, this might be it here.
Name of the email has been redacted. However, the title is listed as Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York. The email reads in part this: for your situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported, or in a parenthetical, or that we were aware. Including.
Okay, so that's the big bombshell here. So, there's stuff to incriminate Trump. So, let me just go to my thing here. So, I made this, this was a font I downloaded called Bloodthirsty, and it used to be this quote came from an article from 2002 about an international man of mystery called Jeffrey Epstein. And there was the Lolita Express and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker were going on the plane, and Jeffrey Epstein was sitting there with Bill Clinton. And the article featured this quote from Donald J. Trump, right, because they were best buddies. And so July of 2015, I made this document. That's when I started covering this, that he was pals with Jeffrey Epstein. So I've been covering this for over 10 years, right? And even before that, I knew who Jeffrey Epstein was going into this. And so the left wanted no part of this. They were not talking about this at all, because Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton were best friends, and all these other Democratic officials. Jeffrey Epstein had his tentacles in, because he's a Mossad agent that had all these motherfuckers all the way over the at that time, the second in line to the throne, right? Like if if of course he had some scandals, but like he was, I think the second he was, Prince Andrew was, if Charles died, I think Prince Andrew would have been the successor. So that, and then all the people on the left and the right. I've known Jeffrey for 15 years. Terrific guy. Trump booms from a speakerphone. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life. See, this is condemning. You're never going to get anything more smoking gun than this, right? I mean, other than a video. Because Trump, in his own words, says Jeffrey Epstein's a terrific guy. They like beautiful women, and he likes them on the younger side. So Trump is aware that Jeffrey Epstein, because Trump was going into these dressing rooms and he talked about this 15-year-old girl he hired, and he said he shouldn't hire her because it's like an addiction. He's got all these quotes and things that support this. Himself liking young women and Jeffrey Epstein liking him even younger than him, or preferring the younger ones. Trump maybe preferred, whatever. But it means that he knew. He fucking knew that Jeffrey Epstein was doing this and was talking about it in a quote to a magazine like, we're just elitist piece of shit and we can do whatever the fuck we want. Jeffrey is okay. Not only is it okay with him, but he's bragging about it, or whatever, bragging on Jeffrey Epstein's behalf, like this kind of thing, right? Whatever it is, it's not, he's not hiding that he knew, right? This is a quote he decided to give to a magazine, the one quote. We're doing a piece on Jeffrey Epstein. What are you going to tell about it? This thing right here. He's a terrific guy. He likes women on the younger side. And, we both do. So that's, we both like beautiful women. He likes them on the younger side, he knows everything. And he's not ashamed of it. Doesn't have any kind of problem with it. And so this should be it. There should be nothing else needed. This is an official quote of Trump. So all these people who are in denial about it, sure, but that's, everyone should have known this. Everybody should have known this is what Trump was about. Just like with Bill Clinton, Trump has a long history. His first wife accused him of raping her because she did something he didn't like. It was like a punishment. She described it in graphic detail in divorce documents that are a part of a legal record. And, all these accusations, grabbed by the pussy, all the things that he said, all the stuff with, he just is, he's known as this guy, right? And so he could be covering up like he's into little boys or something, who knows? With these fucking weird motherfuckers, right? These elitist pieces of shit. But that's what Trump's known for. This guy, Brian Skelser, he's using some sort of filter here, it looks like. And I don't know if it's just, whatever. We're going to get back to Epstein. I have more stuff, but it's just down the road here.
Employees at CBS News are sounding the alarm after editor-in-chief Barry Weiss shelved a planned 60-minute story about the treatment of detainees who were sent by the Trump administration to a notorious prison in El Salvador. This segment by correspondent Sharon Alfonsi had been in the works for weeks. It was legally vetted, it was fact-checked, and according to the 60 Minutes team, it was ready to go as of Friday. But on Saturday, Weiss intervened, asking more questions.
Oh, they're fucking her over with this picture.
More feedback about the piece, and ultimately deciding to hold it. Alfonsi wrote in a memo to her colleagues that this was corporate censorship by CBS's parent company, Paramount, which has tried to ingratiate itself with the Trump administration. Weiss insisted on having Stephen Miller or another Trump aide on camera on the record. But Alfonsi said her team tried hard to get comment from the government. She said the administration's refusal to be interviewed was, quote, a tactical maneuver designed to kill the story. And, quote, if the administration's refusal to participate becomes a valid reason to spike a story, we've effectively handed them a kill switch for any reporting they find inconvenient. What's so strange about this situation is that the Alfonsi segment was promoted ahead of time. It was being publicized all weekend long by CBS, and yet Weiss decided to hold it anyway. This is raising concerns inside CBS about...
All right, so, more shit, right? Things are going south quickly. And as much as Trump said he was against censorship when it was on the right and was about him, he's censoring the shit out of it's mainstream media, so haha. Fuck you guys. It doesn't matter. It matters, but the battle lines have been drawn. The Trumpers who are going to believe in Trump will believe in Trump no matter what. And those people are basically worthless. They have bearing on anything. They're incapable of thinking for themselves. They're desperate, and they're going to walk over the cliff following this Judas goat in Donald Trump. And then the left is the left, and the mainstream media watching people. They're all I mean, when you get down to it, there's only a small group of people that have enough consciousness to deal with. And there might be something people who wake up and they have something inside of them that's been suppressed and comes out in an apocalyptic type of situation. But the majority of people are just going to curl up in the fetal position and wait for the angels to take them away. Okay, so this guy says, he's doing a roast of Rob Reiner. And Rob Reiner was very creepy. And he's being celebrated in a way that is just not needed. He wasn't that kind of a star, right? He put a lot of pro-Israeli stuff in. He did this in The Princess Bride with those two characters, the Billy Crystal, and number of these things. He was on the show All in the Family, and his dad was Rob Reiner and Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner was a big comedian who was like a Mel Brooks, old school sort of vaudevillian comedian that made various TV shows, and his son got his son into the business. So there was nepotism. And so let's start this thing here.
See, as a baby, Rob was routinely beaten by his father, Carl. On a typical night, Carl would slip into Rob's bed, roll him over, swab him down, and say something like, "I'm thinking about hiring Maury Amsterdam to play Buddy Sorrell. What do you think?"
Okay, so it gets worse. We'll play the rest of it. I covered the depravity that was on Full House, maybe you guys, and eventually Fuller House, because they kept on going. A lot of weird symbolism, a lot of pedo stuff, a lot of creepy stories, Bob Saget being the worst person and saying horrific things about, like, for example, they had a doll that was, they only have so much time they have with the baby. So they had the Olsen twins. So this was like when the show was first starting. And Bob Saget tells a story on one of these, sort of raunchy radio comedic shows. And he had this baby doll that they're using for whatever they call it. It's some kind of form of mapping, whatever, there's a term for it. Where they have to position the cameras and, he's carrying this rubber doll around. And he said, it was getting kind of stiff in there and he wanted to lighten everything up. So he takes the doll and he pretends to have sex with it, would rape this baby doll, right? And he gets into it and it was real graphic. He talks about everyone on the set was cracking up, that he just lightened the mood and it was just so hilarious and, really creepy thing to do, right? And to act it out. And the kids and the moms would be like homeschooling the mothers and the kids, and they had full view of what was going on, right? The babies, the Olsen twins were too young, but the other ones, and they were watching him do this because they had a TV in there was showing on what's going on set, right? And this happened a number of times. Another time was, the other guy, the creepy motherfucker who's got cancer now, that the bullshit comedian guy. The guy was featured in Alanis Morissette's that one that's really a bad song about her being, that angry ex song that she has. You Ought to Know. And he dated her when she was like 15 years old. So in Canada. So I guess I don't know what the fucking, whatever that's about. But he's telling a story about how they were walking around a van, and he decided to say, let's drop our pants. Let's, let's just go out half naked. And he's telling this story on Oprah Winfrey. I've covered this numerous times. And they're walking around the van, and they pull down their pants. And the moms and the teachers come down and start yelling at them because the kids were watching. And this has happened over and over again. Like they were doing things, and the kids were watching them do perverted stuff. That was, there's so much stuff on Full House. But he was roasted. This guy, Bob Saget, was roasted. And they said, like one guy, Gilbert Gottfried, said that he killed a girl and buried her in the woods. And he went with, it was like a 3-minute joke. He kept on adding details to it. The way Gilbert Gottfried would. Like all these things. And it made it sound, it was very similar to what's happening here. But they all said horrific things about Bob Saget, who was, he would have the worst kind of comedy, and he would say the most offensive things in his comedy. But then he played this, this fake weird dad, whatever his dad stuff was. Of course, he died under very weird circumstances where he had multiple fractures in his skull, and they said he fell down and then went to sleep and never woke up with hemorrhages. We fractured his skull on both sides of the skull, the front and the back. But it was apparently because he slipped and fell somewhere and then got in his pajamas and went to bed and died. Right, so that's all weird stuff. So very similar to that, this thing here.
Well, the success of the Dick Van Dyke Show changed things dramatically. Carl started inviting many of his famous friends to son.
Okay, so that happened, right? And then his son's all fucked up, is in rehab and all this stuff. And they are, making this guy sound like he was somehow. He made a couple good movies. Harry Met Sally, Princess Bride were good movies. Not great movies, good movies, especially for their time. He produced a show about an old Jewish family after he left All in the Family. And I watched some of that when I was a kid. I thought it was kind of interesting. Don't really remember. It got canceled after like a couple episodes, 6 episodes or something. And, that's all I know of the films he made. He made a Few Good Men, which is a great movie. Right? I think he made A Few Good Men. So he made 2 good movies, 1 great movie. He was on the show All in the Family. Pretty solid career. And they're celebrating him. He raised a fucked up kid who knifed him, according to the official story. I mean, it's believable when you see the kid. But listen, it's Hollywood, and it's a fucked up place. And his kid was 3rd generation Hollywood, right? This guy's dad was a big time Hollywood person. Made Dick Van Dyke Show, a number of other shows. I mean, he made more sitcoms. He had a long list of successful sitcoms. Carl Reiner was a gatekeeper. And then his son's, whatever he is, and then his grandson's a fucking murderer, right? So you can figure out which way that all went, right? Okay, so let me add this as well. When they make these jokes at roasts that are very off-color but very specific about events that happen, right? Now, they could be just jokes. And, whenever comedians do things, they can always say it's just a joke, right? So, for many years, the jester, the joker card, go joker card in tarot or the joker in real life, a court jester, the comedian, is able to say things because it's all in jokes. And they have these roasts of these events where people joke around. The White House Correspondents' Dinner with Stephen Colbert and George W. Bush, or just the whole White House Correspondents' Dinner, where they say things that are, we saw this recently with Pete Hegseth joking about the signal thing and some of these other events. We saw Erica Kirk joking about the Egyptian planes and the rest of it, right? So, it's a place where people say things, and you can always say these things in joke form, and then you're excluded from, you can always fall back towards, it's a joke. Now, you're not denying you said it, but you're saying, I said it in jest, right? People are always saying they were just joking around as a way to escape responsibility for what they say. And when you have something like this that's very specific and very weird, maybe it's just a joke, and just a roast. But given the fact that his son turned out like that, and Hollywood's so fucked, they're putting these ideas out there, and they could be true, right? And, in many cases, they're at least partially true in one way or another. because Hollywood is depraved. We know it. It's been documented, and these people in Hollywood, just any of these elitist people who rise up to high levels of fame and fortune, they stop getting stimulated by normal things, and they get into depraved things, right? It's just the way things go. It's one of the reasons why you don't want to become a king or become a like a superstar, globally famous, or even a little bit famous, because people lose their shit, right? People, lose their ability to make good decisions. And this is obviously, probably the case with Rob Reiner, because he was just really icky, right? Like some kind of gross job of the head motherfucker. And his kid turned out like a real freak. So, the evidence is there. Okay, so many people sent me this and I didn't get it, right? And I finally watched it completely. And I'm like, why are people showing me this clip from?
Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial.
And what I didn't know was Erica Kirk's face. I knew this is Laura Linney, but she was younger. And I didn't get it. I'm like, I didn't realize. She looked weird, but I didn't realize they had put Erica Kirk's face on it.
Sweeteners.
And I'm like, why did Jim Carrey look so weird?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
I've tasted other cocos. This is the best.
What the hell does
So he looks like Charlie Kirk.
this have to do with anything? Tell me what's happening!
Well, you're having a nervous breakdown. That's what's happening.
So, and I didn't understand it, and now it makes total sense.
You're part of this.
You're a part of this thing. All right. Crazy ass Erica Kirk. They both look crazy as fuck in that too. So, and Laura Linney is a person I would say is very much like Erica Kirk. Like if you could have an actress play Erica Kirk versus Laura Linney's older, like she plays these crazy fucking characters that I like I think about, like, my ex and these two other women as being the same type of person, and the crazy eyes and all the rest of it. Like they're a kind of woman, and they're all connected in some way in their weird fucking psychological makeup.
Today in Phoenix, Turning Point USA's annual gathering of young conservatives wraps up, as the headline has been the frequent and bitter clashing of right-wing titans over the direction of the movement. Meanwhile, attendees told us what President Trump's New Year's resolution should be.
I believe he should, learn to, for lack of a better term, keep his mouth shut, be more presidential.
If the economy goes bad, you could very much see him lose in 2026 or 2028, right?
So the resolution is rethink your tariff policy?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know. If it doesn't work, right? So he's been reversing a lot of that stuff since he rolled it out. The economy is a serious issue, right? So if the economy goes bad.
Okay, I don't know how many kids they found to shit on Trump there, but they found at least two. This isn't why I'm covering this. The title of this is AOC says I would stop J.D. Vance in 2028 matchup. Could you get two suckier candidates than J.D. Vance and AOC, right? Like a weakened J.D. Vance after Trump implodes. I mean, who knows how it's going to go, but the people they're listing as possible candidates are all, they're all going to be sucky anyway, but these are, it's just getting worse and worse each presidential cycle, each election cycle.
You could totally see AOC get the presidency.
Well, Dawn Calloway, Jenna Arnold, and Susan Del Percio are back with me. So, Susan, we're going to get to 2028 in just a moment. But did this conference put on the display the internal battle MAGA will have going forward?
I don't think it has, Alex. What I think it really displayed is the battle for market share. Because everyone...
Okay, so, who gives a shit? So where's her thing here? AOC highlights poll showing her beating J.D. Vance. 51% of backed New York Democrat, while 49% backed Ohio Republican.
MS Now. But it says today it gives her a slim edge over Vice President J.D. Vance. And here's her reaction to it.
Listen, these polls, like 3 years out, are, they are what they are. But let the record show, I would stomp him. I would stomp him.
I would stop him. I would stop him. Like, that's where we're going with this. Holy shit, right? There's going to be no MAGA. Like, the MAGA, Make America Great Again, like, you'd have to be delusional to think Trump made America great again by the end of his thing. Like, it's not better. And you can blame Biden and whoever else all that time, but it didn't make it better, right? I would thump him. I would thump him, right? So that's, that's done. Like, that's not true. Like, that's not, MAGA is done. It's going to be done with Trump. Like, these guys are such infighters. They're already, like, at each other's throats. And they're all coming together for the Trump, as soon as this thing falls apart, these guys are all going to fucking, they're all going to knife each other. I mean, they're just going to be bad. They're just all horrible people, and they all had to suck, they all had to lick Trump's taint for fucking so many years, and they're all feeling like they're owed something, and there's going to be a lot of, it's going to be bad. Anyway, this video is going up Wednesday morning, which is Christmas Eve. I usually do the Christmas Eve tracker. I might as well maybe do that. I don't know if that starts today. It usually starts Christmas Eve, but, I'll put out something on Christmas Day. So this will be Christmas. I do 3 days in a row. And, I don't know how many people will be watching videos on Christmas Day. So I'll, probably make I don't know. And I'll just for my own personal sanity. And hopefully there's no big, not hopefully, there'll probably be no real news going on then. All these regular people start leaving their shows Christmas Eve, and then they take the rest of the week off, and they have all these fill-ins in media, and everybody goes and does their bullshit family stuff, right? And so, so there's that, but we'll see how it goes. So this video will be up Christmas Eve morning, then I'll put something up Christmas Day around 2 o'clock, and then the day after Christmas, which will be a Friday, and then I'll take Saturday will be off, and then Sunday and that stuff. All right, so let's get to the next thing here. All right, so this is Don Lemons. He's pushing the Z-Biotic thing.
All right, let's get started, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
And so I told my wife about this last night, and she said Reddit was already saying this thing is false. I had a bunch of video clips I was going to show you about people being outraged at them withholding these documents, withdrawing the documents, all the things, So, it's a mess. But this guy just sucks so bad. So he's probably the dumbest guy on, of the news people who have either just been a regular news person or mainstream, legacy media, and then trying to be not legacy media after he got fired. But he's just really dumb.
Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, Lemon Live at 5. You know what I always tell you, thumbs up, all of those things. Okay, so I'm just going to let you inside the process here because this happened just as we were about to go on. I didn't want to be too late for you. We're just a little bit late, not much, because it just happened. I think you guys, maybe you've seen it, maybe you have.
Good evening, Lemonheads. He's got a bunch of retards. He's got a bunch of retarded people. They're all retarded. It's one of the few things I can say with a Boston accent. Quarter. I can say quarter and retarded. I lived right next to Boston, and I lived in Massachusetts, with all the mass holes. My nephew went to play college basketball, my middle nephew, in Massachusetts, and I was just up there. I just moved up there, and I was working with these, really obnoxious people. And he said, yeah, there are a lot of mass holes up here. Like we were from Connecticut. And, but I have those retarded and quarter. And so, but that's all I could do. I should be able to master that accent. But anyways, there are people who are part of this, like Lemon Nation.
There hasn't been much reporting about it. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to walk you through, something that is, look, it's reportedly on the Justice Department's website released by the Justice Department earlier today. It's strange because you can't get to it directly. A reporter found it, so anyways, it's hard to try to figure out the origins, except that it is, if you go onto the Justice Department website, the link that was provided by the reporter, then you will see something.
You know he can't find this on his own. Like, so he's talking about something it's like somebody talking about like fishing that has never seen a fish or has never fished, and they're trying to explain it to you without really ever knowing, never seeing it done. Like he's reading something, like he's reading instructions, but could never do this on his own.
The Justice Department released earlier today, and why what is released that we're going to talk about, what they released earlier today, and why what they released is not what the public needs to truly understand what happened, I think. And I think it is strange, okay? So the link to the video we got from, do we have the original, guys? I'm going to rely on the producers for this. Do we have the original,
So he just pulled something gross off of his microphone.
The original,
Look.
Let's see, from the reporter. What's the reporter's name that's on site? Okay, this is from Riley Waltz, okay? And he says,
so in what way is he a reporter? Warning, extreme disturbing. The DOJ released up to 12-second video showing what appeared to be Epstein attempting to kill himself. The camera is timestamped as the day his body was discovered. The DOJ quietly released the footage but didn't link to the video yet from their main Epstein files.
Warning, this is extremely disturbing. The DOJ uploaded a 12-second video showing what appears to be Epstein attempting to kill himself. The camera timestamp is the... Oh, God, this makes me really nervous.
Wait, let's go back a little.
Let's see. Yeah. God, this makes me really nervous. I don't see anything in the last hour.
Do you want to
reporting?
Do you want to cover some of the other Epstein storylines that we have, and then I can continue monitoring?
Yeah, I want to continue to but it's on. Can you send me the drop site news link? Again, I'm letting you inside the process here because unlike the big media organizations, we don't have the standards and practice department. We don't have tons of researchers that can check on this stuff. And that's just the nature of the beast. But so what the video actually does show, it appears to be Jeffrey Epstein trying to unalive himself. And you saw what he says in there. It's extremely disturbing. So you see in this video an overhead camera. So an overhead camera, let's see.
Don't do it. Trust your gut, Don. He doesn't want to release the video because he's getting scammed.
Someone said, don't do it. Drop the link. Just drop the link. Yeah. So the link is in there. We'll give you the link.
The people are telling him what to do. His fucking commenters are telling him what to do, how to fucking manage this crisis that he's under.
Some folks are not comfortable being...
Yashar Ali is now reporting it done.
And Yashar, hang on one second. I'm going to actually call Yashar and see what he says, but stand by. I'm going to call Yashar. Stand by.
You know, like, if you're worried about your credibility taking a hit, if you're worried that people are going to think you're a joke for putting out some disinformation, don't worry about that. Like, you know, you already have no credibility. And you could just show the video saying, I don't know if this is credible or not, but this is what we have. And I don't know if you can even show it on YouTube's.
Okay.
But what I hear is it's a complete bullshit video.
Maybe he'll answer, maybe he won't, because I know he's busy. So I just would like to know, Yashar, answer. He's not answering. Anyone else reporting it?
Okay, I just watched it. I mean, you can't really tell what's going on. IMO. I forget what that means. Don't tell me. Don't care. Don't need to know.
So I think it's important.
Call has been forwarded to voicemail.
Hey, Siri, text Yashar Ali. Call me, please. Siri didn't do it. Okay.
Look. Siri didn't do it. This is wonderful content. Christ, I didn't watch this yet. I knew it was bullshit. I watched a little bit of it.
I would think it's probably real, but
Well, no, like it's either real or not. Not probably.
he's probably watching. He's like, I'm not calling you behind. Okay. So look, it's probably real. This is Yasser. Can we put up Yasser's thing? So this is Yasser Ali, his reporting on it. And Yasser is usually pretty, CW, unaliving, whatever you want to call it. This is really bizarre. It's a video of Jeffrey Epstein attempting to take
Unalive and uncoupled, because that's what they say.
his own life, it says here, is what it is. And in the Epstein files, there's a short video that is dated on the day he was found.
Plus, they don't put a camera in everybody's fucking cell. There's no camera in his cell. Why would there be a camera in his cell? You know, there'd be ones with suicide watch. They don't gonna put that fucking, you know. I mean, how do they get the prisoner has access to the camera? They can fucking, you know. I mean, whatever. Like, it's just silly.
Found dead. It's timestamped just a couple of hours before he was found dead. He has J. Epstein on it. The problem is that we've all been told by the DOJ that there was no cameras in his cell. Video on the left and the image from 60 Minutes story about his unaliving on the right. Now, here's the
unaliving
thing. As soon as this came out just a couple minutes ago, I called Mark Epstein, the brother of Jeffrey Epstein, and he sent me some photographs, and he said, these are the videos that they sent me. Andy, I don't know if I think I sent you guys those, if you have them. He said, these are the videos that I have been sent. And he says it doesn't, to him, he wants to like study them well before he makes any comment, except he says, this doesn't add up to him. It seems fake to him. He's never seen this. And I'm not sure that I buy it.
Okay, so if he hung himself, where is he hanging himself from, right? Like, you know, it's almost impossible to hang yourself like the way that Robin Williams' kid did in that movie, where your feet aren't off the ground. Because when you start to choke yourself out, you change your mind, right? If you're hanging yourself, very few people have the discipline to, you know, realize, most of them, like when you start dying, you know, my brother used to say, like, the people be like, I'm so depressed. I wish I would die. You know, I'm just kill myself. I'm so depressed. And then a lion goes into the room, and they run, and you know they run for cover. They're throwing other people behind them, tripping people, so the lion gets to them first. You know, like, you know, people claim that, you know, until they're in a life-threatening situation. You know, people get depressed and why. And there's some people are legitimately suicidal, but many people, it's for attention or like they just need a dose of reality. And if you take pills or you do something where it's, you know, you like it makes you like inebriated. I don't know why inebriated. I don't know. I don't know why I get drunk or whatever it does. You know, there's a level of like you're not really aware what you're doing. But when you're in a situation where you're like, if you're underwater and you're struggling for breath, and you're like trying to get to the surface, and you're like, oh my God, I really appreciate breathing, you know? It's very hard to, you know, if you could put your feet down and take the rope off your neck, you would just do it, like the majority of people would. And whenever they have these suicides where the person is, you know, have access to the floor, like they're not above something, they're not hanging themselves from the ceiling in some way, it's not believable that they just don't, you know, opt out, like when they're in the middle of it.
He's never seen this. And I'm not sure that I buy it. And yeah, I'm not sure that I buy it. But anyway, I literally can't. What's going on? You're scaring me. I'm at the doctor. That's Yashar. I'm on live, and I just wanted to confirm this video and what you thought of it, period. I would love to call you on speaker if you were available, period. But if you're at the doctor, I certainly understand. Okay, so anyway,
Don, can I make one more point?
Yeah, go for it. We're being very transparent with the audience. This is how it works. Go for it.
With that, I actually don't know how to do fucking anything, and I have no judgment, and I don't know how anything works, and I'm basically retarded, and I shouldn't have had a career, and we're being totally transparent.
I was just going to say that if it's real, that is huge because we've been told. And when I say real, I mean I trust Yasher's reporting. I believe that this was uploaded to the DOJ website, and so in that sense, it's authentic. But when I say if it's real, as in this is actual real footage,
Right.
that is a huge bombshell because that means Trump's FBI has been lying to us about the fact that there is a real.
All right, so it's not real. As much as I watch Don Lemon's Incompetence, there's only so much Don Lemon we could take. It's funny until it's not. Then he's just annoying like everybody else. There is another video here, though, from him. So this was a follow-up, and I had a lot of great reactions, and it was hilarious, and I'm really enjoyed it. And I forgot to hit the fucking record button. So I got to do it again. And, we'll see.
Let's talk about Nicki Minaj. Why not? Everybody else is.
Everybody else is, so let's do it.
What is she doing? Now, Nicki Minaj has trafficked in some conspiracy theories, you guys. I don't know if you remember around COVID, primarily like social media posts and public statements. There was one that was really notable about the claims that she shared during COVID about her cousin's COVID-19 vaccination, alleged swollen testicles.
How did I miss that tweet? Nicki Minaj's cousin's swollen testicle tweet, COVID vaccine. All right, so, this guy came out and blamed the vaccinated. And I'm not going to show you the meme, but I have it, And he's doing it in a handover with Chris Cuomo's. And he said we have to shame the unvaccinated, the anti-vaxxers. COVID is one of these things that everybody knows on some level it was all bullshit. Like it was bullshit. I'm not one of these flubies. People say that I got COVID and I got sick and it sucked. I got COVID 3 times and it sucked. But the whole way they rolled it out, all the stuff that they did. Remember, they made false claims and they told us to do shit. First, they said just wash your hands, and then wash all surfaces, and then they said social distance, stay 6 feet away, and then they said they didn't say it was airborne. Then they said it was airborne. Then they said wear a mask, and then they came out later and said masks were worthless at the end. Right, made everybody wear a mask. They said the president Joe Biden said. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated were the ones that were the typhoid Marys and carrying the thing around. And then it turns out that COVID just mutated itself out of existence. And then there was all these issues with the vaccine where people were having issues. There were kids who were showing up with purple toes, like this thing about swollen testicles. It affected the vascular system. And these kids had no other symptoms but purple toes. And then all of a sudden, kids started dropping dead, like cardiac arrest. Fucking, I covered this in Hollywood Celebrities Dropping Like Flies. They started putting defibrillators in schools and high schools and elementary schools and at parks because kids and adults were just starting to fucking have cardiac arrest for no reason, right? And then all the blood clots and things, and there was obvious side effects. And I covered this extensively for a number of years on my other channel, Hollywood Celebrities Dropping Like Flies, and it got a lot of views. And then nobody cared about it. Like, everyone moved on. Everyone got over it. Now there's still all these side effects. There's this website, there's a Instagram page and a Facebook page called Died Suddenly. Remember that? And all that stuff. And nobody cares about it anymore. I mean, it's really like, the birth rate is down and the vascular system. And so, everyone should know that we were lied about by COVID and there was over-exaggerated things and disinformation was put out and they really forced the vaccine. And then they, after all this failure and all the side effects and all the bullshit that came out of it, and then everyone just all right, let's forget about it. Let's pretend that didn't happen. And so, she's not wrong, right? He says she's a conspiracy theorist or she pushes conspiracies. Everybody pushes conspiracies. The right wing has their conspiracies, the left wing has their conspiracies, and then there's the ones that talk about the system and the ones that, often are true, but then there's a lot of disinformation put out with them. But, they're more accurate than the official story. So he's talking about attacking the official story, which now, he likes to call himself a fucking, a non-legacy media person, right? But if you are that, then you have to push back against the official story, right?
And just that was in 2021. Just all kinds of things. So is Nicki Minaj being Nicki Minaj? Except this time, Nicki Minaj, she has people scratching their head because this was at a Turning Point USA conference. I think it's called AmFest, and
it's called US Gay, Don.
She showed up. Not only showed up, but with Charlie Kirk's widow, hand in hand. Watch it.
Look at him. Look how happy he is.
Okay. By the way, what stage of grief is that for Erica Kirk? Like, this is bizarre and
It would be acceptance, Don. The fifth one. This would be called acceptance. We were laughing and smiling. The last one would be acceptance, right? Because all the other ones are anger, or it's denial, anger, bargaining, and is it depression? What's the fourth one? It's 4 bad ones and then acceptance. And there's a fifth stage, the sixth stage, which would be gratitude. And gratitude is for everything, whether it's grief or anything. The highest stage of anything is where you're grateful for it, especially obviously bad things. But gratitude is it's up there with love and compassion. Love is God, and then these other things are closer to that, the feeling of God and being grateful for God, right? But there would be acceptance. The only good one is acceptance, right? And and it's also the one. It's bedazzled. It's the sparkly one.
whole number of levels. I mean, Erica Kirk has been on like this media tour and grieving and in public, and we'll get to that. Some people say grifting, honestly, and we'll get to that. There's
some people say grifting. Who are those people, Don? Who are those people? Like every fucking buddy, but like a handful of people say grifting. Like almost everybody says grifting, but like just like about 1 million people who won't, but everyone else is grifting. Like anybody else who knows about this, there's like a handful of people who are on Erica Kirk's side, and it could be 5 up to 5 million people who are whatever they are. Don't think it's that many, and the rest are like grifting. Like grifting. I don't know how many people were Charlie Kirk fans, and how many people have consciously understand this on who watch Fox News. But the majority of people think she's a grifter. Like that's the overwhelming memes are about her being grifty.
It has to do with that. But there's a headline. Nicki Minaj surprises conservatives with praise for Trump, Vance at the Arizona event. Now, do we need to go into what Charlie Kirk said about black women? And Nicki Minaj is a black woman. She's a woman of color.
What did he say? What did he say?
About not having brain processing power. So maybe Nicki Minaj, according
why not play that clip? I'd be interested in him saying that. That would be supportive of your argument. Did he actually say those words, right? I may or may not look that up, but we'll see if that's accurate.
Charlie Kirk does not have the brain processing power to figure out what she's doing right now. Look, you can be a conservative, you can be whatever you want, but I believe a grift is a grift is a grift.
Is it Don? No one knows grifting like Don. Don's not a real grifter because he just steps into fucking money somehow. You got $24 million. Somebody gave him a large contract, even though everyone knew he sucked at CNN. But he was writing, like Chris Cuomo's got okay ratings, good ratings for CNN. And it bled into Don Lemon's show, and everyone was against Trump. And so they had their ratings high. And then COVID hit, and he fucking tanked, and Chris Cuomo got fired. And they put him on the morning show, which he sucked so bad, he called it a promotion, was a demotion. I mean, I got all these fucking memes of him. And then they had to pay him off. They fired him for cause, but had to pay him off $24 million. And now he's on social media, after the Elon Musk debacle. And somehow he's carved off a little audience of retarded. They're retarded. He's carved off this, social media stuff. But, it's not good, right? And he's somehow making bank and wearing his merch. And, I would call it grifting, but he's like too stupid to grift.
And I don't know what, there are folks online who are saying maybe this has to do with that she's in financial straits. I don't know that. That's what the streets are saying. That's what the internet is saying.
The streets are saying it. Go out in the streets, and they're like, Nicki Minaj is hard up for cash, and she got to go on this thing. What are they paying her? Is that what you think it's about, or she's going to try to carve herself a little bit of an audience and have her own podcast? Is that what do you think's happening here, Doc? I mean, I'm sure there's a strategy. I'm sure there's a reason why Nicki Minaj chose to do this. We don't know what it is, right? But there's a strategy.
Know that to be true, but that's what they're saying. There's also saying there's someone in her family possibly that she wants pardoned or exonerated or something changed. I just remember, her. We'll talk about her husband and all of that because Gavin Newsom, I think, took care of all of that for.
Why did she kill him? I remember his husband had some issues. I don't know any of these things. This would be the details that would be interesting to the people who are not aware of Nicki Minaj's. I mean, I kind of maybe have an idea of a memory of her cousin's swollen testicles. Like it might have. I think it was something I would have remembered, but maybe like there was a tweet and they didn't get into specifics, so I didn't know it was that. But I knew maybe she said something about COVID, and I knew there's some issues with her husband, some legal stuff. But like this would be your job to fill in those details here, Don. I mean, you're trying to be a reporter.
For all of us. So Nicki Minaj is at this Turning Points USA event, and she has this praise for Donald Trump and for J.D. Vance. In the process of praising both of them, she made a huge, huge, huge blunder. Now, I want you to remember, you guys know, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, right? Or was killed. I don't know if you want to call it an assassination or something, whatever.
He always says that. I don't know whether you guys want to call it that. I don't know what you guys are going to call it. I don't know what to call it. So I'm going to put it on you guys, the audience, to make these calls. I can't like make a statement myself. I'm gonna let you guys define the terms, right? Because I'm basically retarded.
But a bullet took his life, and Nicki Minaj gets up and she
did it.
Says this.
And for young men, don't be new scum.
Boom.
Yes. See, dear young men, you have amazing role models.
Look at his face. Look at his brain. Look at his brain working.
Handsome, dashing president. And you have amazing role models like the
You're supposed to be having reactions here, Dad.
assassin J.D. Vance, our vice president.
Assassin.
And when I say that,
Ooh.
Whoa. Boom. Fuck. Oh, man, Nikki. Look at she's laughing.
Trust me, there's nothing new under the sun that I have not heard, so you're fine. Yes, we did. I love you.
Oh, it's so uncomfortable. Ooh. Oh,
You have to laugh about it, truly. I have been called every single thing, and you know what? God is so good, you let it roll right off your back.
God is so good, you roll it. What the fuck are you talking about? You mean like the grief that you're no longer expressing, you let it roll off your back because God is so good that he took your husband, right? God's so great. He took my husband. Now I'm in charge of the company. I don't have that motherfucker around anymore. He's always banging boys and fucking, Now I'm the fucking man.
This is what's so beautiful about this moment, because if the internet wants to clip it, who cares? I love this woman. She's an amazing...
Yeah, they are. They are, and they will. We all did it. I did it, and Don Levis did it.
woman. She has a soul and a heart for the Lord.
She does. For the Lord, she does.
And words are words, but I know her heart, and
I know her heart. And just because she called J.D. Kirk an assassin, and that basically implies that me and him are hooking up, she's got a heart for the Lord.
Doesn't even matter, and you say what you want to say because I know your heart. I do not
Thank
judge
you, my
that.
sister. Thank you. For boys, be boys.
Amen.
Be boys. It's okay.
Amen, boys. Boys, be boys.
Be boys. It's nothing wrong with being a boy.
Boom.
How about that?
How about that? How about that?
How powerful is that? How
It's pretty
profound
fucking
is
powerful. I mean, for boys to be boys, The boys are back in town.
Amen.
Boys will be boys.
Boom.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
You got out of that masterfully.
Now, what does that mean? Of course, it's okay to be a boy. It's okay to be a girl. It's okay to be anyone. It's okay to be trans. It's okay to be gay. It's okay to be straight. It's okay to be a grifting rapper. It's okay to be a grifting political.
Where you going with this? Where's this end? Where's this going? It just seems like it's going downhill, Don. I mean, you can make a case for the rest of the things based on people's beliefs, but I think pretty much nobody believes that it's okay to be a grifter except for like grifters, right?
Person. If that's what you choose to be, I don't think that it's okay to. I shouldn't say it's okay to be a grifter.
Of course you shouldn't. Of fucking course you shouldn't. It's still funny the second time. I was worried that the reaction, like I was laughing so hard when he started just fucking spewing his shit, but it's still funny.
But you do you, and what does she mean? It's okay to be a boy? Of course it is. Like, say what you mean.
Okay, Don. You know what she means is that Kamala Harris's Democratic Party had a list, and this was on CNN, your old network. One of those guys, weekend guys, brought a guy in who talked about how before the election that the Democratic Party was playing with fire by excluding men. And so there was a website that said, who does the Democratic Party serve? And I think number 3 was women. And a lot of the stuff was women, but it was one would just said women. And then there's things about trans and the gay community and people of color and these things, right? Different groups, homeowners, middle-class people, things like this. So there's 16 listed. There was women, but it didn't say men. And, of course, she lost because of mostly angry young men who don't have a future who are being told it was wrong to be a man, which has been the overwhelming. We're still seeing movies trickle in at TV shows with female leads that would have been cast as men, that they're, some kind of action hero and all this stuff, right? Like, it's just, like the whole thing that was anti-man, which everybody fucking knows about, Don. Everyone fucking knows, especially cisgender and white men, but men in general. It's heterosexual men. And so, like, that's what it means. That's what she means. I mean, I know you don't have a problem with boys yourself.
Don't choke on your words. Don't just say what you mean. What does that mean? It's okay to be a boy. Of course it is. And so she did that whole thing. A couple of things for Gavin Newsom. She goes, Gavin Newsom. And I'm not here to defend Gavin Newsom, but I know a read and an own.
I know a read and an own when I see it. I mean, I don't know the difference between murder and assassin, but I can't make that kind of call.
I see one. So she said that she had that moment about Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, obviously, and will probably run for president. And so she tweeted this about Gavin Newsom.
Okay, we don't need to get to that. Anyways, so he's just so incompetent, like just brutal. I mean, he never disappoints. I mean, he always brings the stupid. Just went for a walk with my wife. Look at all these guys with their cameras on. Like, this is going to be, I don't know, whatever. Different generations. But here comes J.D. Vance, and he comes out to a 1950s Holly song, and I heard the song before it, and I didn't ever know what it was called, and I never understood the lyrics. But it's this song. Okay, so it's that song. You probably heard it before. And, they'll copyright if I play any more of it. But he comes out to that song, and, let's hear the narration, then I'll read the lyrics. Okay. This is getting weirder and weirder. They curated all the transitional music from AmFest. Who curated all the transitional music from AmFest? Because it was brought to my attention that the intro song for J.D. Vance was from 54 years ago, is Long Cool Women in a Black Dress by the Hollies. They could have picked any song. The narrator singing the story of an FBI agent who fell in love with a 5'9" beautiful woman and has a Charlie in it who gets shot at the table, and the agent protects her as shots ring out. So, let's read the lyrics. Saturday night, this is the long, cool woman in a black dress. You know, she's a tall woman. Erica Kirk, I believe she's probably 5'9". Saturday night, I was downtown working for the FBI. Now, I would have never guessed these are the lyrics. I've heard this song quite a bit. It's a famous song. Sitting in a nest of bad men, whiskey battles piling high. Bootlegging boozer on the west side, full of people who are doing wrong, just about to call up the DA man, when I heard this woman singing a song. A pair of 45s made me open my eyes, my temperature starting to rise. She was a long, cool woman in a black dress, just a 5'9", beautiful and tall. Just one look, I was a bad mess, because that long, cool woman had it all. I saw her heading to the table, while a tall, walking, big black cat. Charlie said, I hope that you are able, boy, because I'm telling you, she knows where it's at. I bet she does know where it's at. Do you know where it's at? Well, suddenly we hear the sirens, and of course Charlie here. Well, suddenly we hear the sirens, and everybody started to run, jumping under doors and tables. Well, I heard somebody shooting a gun. That sounds a little bit familiar. Well, the DA was pumping my left hand. She was holding my right. Well, I told her, don't get scared, because you're going to be spared. I've got to be forgiven if I want to spend my living with a long, cool woman in a black dress, just a beautiful and tall. Well, just one look, I was a bad mess, because that long, cool woman had it all. Had it all, had it all, had it all. Had it all, had it all, had it all, she had it all. You've heard the song before probably as well. This is, there she is there, the Hollies. And there she is there. There they are there, the Hollies. They look a little bit suspect. So anyways, weird-ass song. It has a shootout in it. It has Charlie's name. And, of course, people are suspicious of Erica banging J.D. Vance. All of those things. Okay, so I just went and re-listened to that song by the Hollies. And I was thinking some other thoughts about this before, and I forgot to say them. What about J.D. Vance being a guy who cross-dresses? So, would be a long, tall woman in a black dress, right? Or Erica Kirk wearing a black dress when she's grieving, her grifting thing, and then the whole weird hug. And so, the idea that a long, tall woman could be a man dressed in a dress. And I looked at the singer, and the singer, again, it's hard to say. You can look at the video, find pictures of the singer. But he looks like possibly he could be gay. And some of those songs were really about, like, they said woman, but they meant man, like it was like whatever. There was a lot of gay singers and gay performers who couldn't come out of the closet, and sometimes they would make songs that were about men that they would insert a woman, right? So, but either way, this is Charlie Kirk's first memorial, first big thing, not memorial, first big event that, other than his funeral stuff, like they're getting back to normal stuff. And this guy's supposed to run for president in 3 years, and they're endorsing him. Erica Kirk's endorsing him right now for president, 3 years before. I mean, this is a lot of shit's going to happen and go down before they're even talking about that, the midterms and all the rest of those things politically. And this is a song they fucking pick. It's a weird fucking song, right? And it has, I don't know what you call it, not metaphor, but alliteration. Is that what it is? I forget all that stuff. But it, it hints at Charlie's death, and it hints at a possible relationship between Erica and J.D. Vance. And it doesn't do anything in terms of Christianity or, like any kind of, inspirational thing. Like Trump's song, which sucks. That song that Trump comes out. The USA song, God Bless the USA, that fucking weird, shitty song that comes out. But at least it's patriotic and, You know, it's a cheesy song, but it's not fucking woman in a black dress, long, tall woman in a black dress, which is so fucking weird. And that has no, connection to the, I mean, the FBI is also, just the FBI and what that means. Like, people aren't high on the FBI now and certainly weren't in the past. These three-letter organizations, and this guy's, claiming he's working for the FBI in the song. I mean, that's the song. And so, I mean, it's just fucking weird. And it's just inappropriate. All right, here, I got some other stuff here to get to. Okay, so I'm editing this video. I went for another walk with my wife a bit ago. We talked about this. The video was, the song was from 1970. And I'm not sure when J. Edgar Hoover was in charge of the FBI, but he was, he dressed up as a woman and he was gay, like another gay Republican, he ran the FBI, right? So during that time in the 70s, when this guy wrote that song, that's what the FBI was about. And people in the know knew that J. Edgar Hoover was a guy who put on women's dresses and hooked up with gay dudes, even though he's an extreme right-wing, paranoid. I mean, he's a fucked up person, right? And very influential at that time in terms of the FBI, what was going on in politics and the rest of that stuff. And so, there's a lot of weirdness in this thing, right? And when my wife was talking about what a bizarre choice it was, because, they choose everything for a reason. Like, there's no, everyone has a theme song, and his is just, is this his theme song? Like, what the fuck? It's just like, it's not religious. It's not political. It's weird. The FBI, again, did the FBI mean, like, was that like being in a gang? Did they give you street cred? I was working with the FBI. Like, is that, why would that be some person who's in a rocker? Usually they're anti-establishment and anti-police. I mean, again, this is in the 70s, so it was more maybe a rock pop song. I don't know what the genre of music it was, but, working with the FBI, working with the DA, like, that's not, everyone wants to be a criminal now and be have street cred and all these things. So, just a very odd choice. Okay, so I checked out TPUS Gay yesterday, and I was going to put this in the video, but this video was too long. And so, setting the record straight on Trump 2.0, Venezuela drug boat strikes. In this one, importance of bringing the coalition back together after Charlie's death. And the Mar-a-Lago raid was political hit confirmed. 6,000 views, 7,000 views, 4,000 views. So, and I'm sure a number of them are hater views or negative views, right? So these guys start talking about putting the coalition back together. And let's read some of the comments. So let's go through these comments here. I miss Charlie. Mikey McCoy's bottom lip was quivering. Unity at any cost, foolish and destructive when you align with evil behavior, moral cowardice. Those pushing interests that pose a serious threat to Christianity or gaslight your audience to minimize the real danger they pose, and the hateful racists, you'll still need to have ideological boundaries. We need to debate, but also debate as in not talk, but to use debate tactics to literally win debates. For example, people absolutely love Andrew Wilson. He wins debates left and right because his ideas are superior, super solid, because he treats debates like a debate. For example, how to force doctrine that society is, well, let's go someone else. Poor Charlie. While TPUS Gay is still a viable option to informing this generation of youth, I'm afraid it's simply not enough to gamer peace and unity among the broken-hearted, self-righteous, arrogant pricks that's infiltrated the movement. It's the nature of the age of, I'm afraid, division, offense, betrayal, and people with itchy ears to do not want the truth. They don't want to hear what's tantalizing to the emotions that we now need to realize. This is a long comment. Get back to Christ and keep focus on Him, and I'm rooting for you. Division is not always a bad thing. There will be left. Those who will be left will be stronger and grow larger without compromise. Jesus thinned the crowd with the hard truths. Come on, TPUS Gay. Charlie would have been horrified at the damage that people like Carlson, Owens, Bannon have done to this organization and his beloved wife. So there's some positive people there for them. Sucks without Charlie. I still whine to open debate with Candace Owens. Avoiding that is cowardice. Do the Doge, or stop grifting. So there's some positive. This is like mixed, right? But for the most part, that you have 7,000 views, and half of these comments, there'll never be a coalition as long as TP US Gay has no clarity. When TP gives equal weight to speakers like Tucker and Megyn Kelly, there can be no coalition because there is no clarity. So, like they don't have their normal all negative comments, but, the most of these ones are not supportive. And then there are a lot of negative comments too. Do the Doge audit Charlie setting up and requested in September. So there's all these things, right? So half of the views, I would say 80% of them are unsupportive views, aka haters. So this guy's going to have some kind of thing. He's somebody, I don't know who he is. And look at Twinks R Us over here.
Talking about, or the number one thing I hope that we get out of this weekend is I've just never experienced the kind of unity and seeds of revival like we had at Charlie's memorial and the immediate thereafter. And
you think you would have unity at Charlie's memorial? Like, fuck, what the fuck are you talking about? Like his funeral. Like you got to be a real asshole to create disunity as a funeral. Like, even I know that, right? You have to be a real fucking prick to say, all right, I'm going to make this thing about me, right? And it happens, but, it wasn't going to happen there.
I'm just hoping.
And a lot of people did make it about them at the funeral. It's just that nobody called other people on their bullshit. I wouldn't call that thing unity. It was just each person vying for some attention, right? It was a big event being covered by lots of people. And most people who were speaking were looking to bolster their nuts or whatever you call it, their audience and the rest of it, right?
Praying in advance of this event that what this does is recaptures that going into the holidays. Yeah. And then we come out of the new year with that kind of focus and drive and purpose and shared missiology and momentum again. And so everything, you guys are keeping me busy this week. So everything that I'm going to be a part of here at the Convention Center in Phoenix is going to be about reinforcing that message, which is kind of weird for me. For much of my career, I've kind of been the disruptor insurgent guy. But Charlie convinced me in the last year plus that if we don't keep this coalition together, we're doomed.
Yeah, okay. So the coalition's never coming back together. The coalition is fucked. It isn't because of Charlie's death. It's because of Israel. And the fact, people are going to have an assessment of whether you made America great again. Like people are going to know, like they're going to have their own opinion on whether Trump was successful at all or the opposite happened. And whatever, the Epstein thing takes that bite out of him. He's fucked already, like Trump's fucked. Because MAGA was never going to happen. Even if Trump was great, he could make America great again. You can't fix this fucking problem. It's the outcome of the solution, right? It's like people saying they're going to beat cancer, but you're not going to beat death. Like you can delay cancer, some people are successful at becoming cancer free depending on the type of cancer, but you're going to die, right? It's going to take a chunk out of you. But your life you're not going to be made young again. You're not going to be made whole again. You're not going to be the same person, when you're 50 years old and you've a bout of cancer. You might have some remission. You might have a period of good health. This happens to everybody when they get older. You just never go back in time and reclaim your youth. You might be, I'm more healthy now than I was like 10 years ago. My health has taken a positive turn, but I'm not, young. Like I'm not in my 20s. I'm in my 30s, and so it's like you can't reverse that. You can't reverse the effects of time, and you can't make something great again when it was never really great in the first place. But certainly, this system. So we all know that. So that's going to fail, and people are going to react to the failure. You know, you can make excuses. The Democrats were against us. Joe Biden, whatever. Joe Biden fucked it up too bad. Whatever they say, and people have lost their enthusiasm. You know, when you run for president the first time, like when Obama ran for president the first time, he had a very limited voting record because he was only in the Senate like 4 years before he ran for president. So he was, you know, people didn't know that much about him. But then when he was president, you could run against his record. The same thing with Trump. We didn't know what Trump was going to be like at all because he just said a lot of shit when he was a civilian, and he would never had any political history. And so no one knew what Trump was going to be like. And even now, he's kind of been a mystery because he's so arbitrary and he doesn't follow any ideology or dogma. But still, he can run against Trump's actions. Like you could run against, you know, for example, what he did with vaccines or what he did with the economy, any of these things, right? And so, you know, when something's new and it has potential, you don't know what it's going to be yet, like the MAGA movement was. And again, everyone should have known after the first term, but they bought into it. Now everybody knows. Like everyone knows that Trump couldn't fulfill his promises and that he's compromised by Epstein and he wasn't one of you, all these things, right? And, you know, all the other things that have happened. And so that enthusiasm is never going to be the same. And, you know, shit's going to be bad for people. I mean, the economy's, you know, inflation, all that stuff. There's things that you can't do anything about, and it's hard to run against that. I mean, if J.D. Vance is polling worse than AOC, you got a fucking problem. Like, if AOC would beat J.D. Vance in a runoff right fucking now, it's going to be way worse in 4 years, right? So there's no unity. You guys are fucking scrambling, right? You guys are all trying to grab a piece of the pie of what's a dwindling pie, right? Because people are like leaving your movement in droves.
And so now, as I get older, I am into my 50s now. I kind of feel like I'm grandpa now, and I'm trying to get everybody to stay on the same team for the first time in my career. So I'm going to be harping on that a lot.
I think a guy is like plays for the other team, you know? Much like the other twinks on this
week.
Well, it kind of reminds me of that Elon Musk quote, and I think it was right around the memorial where he says, "We must hang together,
or we shall surely hang separately."
Yeah,
well, that's not his quote. It's not his fucking quote. I'm not sure where that quote comes from, but it's like back in the time when they hung people, right? It's like Revolutionary War shit.
Yeah, and there really is, you know.
You guys don't know where that quote comes from? ChatGTP, who originally said, "If we don't hang together, we'll hang separately"? Who was that quote from originally? It's working on it. Benjamin Franklin, right? He signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776. And so it wasn't Elon.
I've been thinking a lot about this, Steve, and this isn't where we were planning to go with it, but I think it kind of all ties in with what we were planning on talking about on the show today. You know, there is a time for bringing coalitions together. Usually that's election years, right? Obviously, you have to seed the ground before that happens, and you have to do the work before. But there can be a time where you've got to there is a sifting. There can be a sifting that happens, and it's truly a difficult question when that time is. You know, who makes the call? Who has the leadership to sort of lead the pruning? And because you got to prune every.
You're fucked, right? You don't have anything. Like the Republicans are dead in the water. You're going to get fucking slammed in the midterms, and none of this stuff matters because people don't believe it anymore, and people are going to leave the idea of a political solution. And then you just got elections. You got denutted elections that no one gives a shit about. Two candidates that people could care less about. You know, listening to promises they know aren't going to be fulfilled, as you know the country plummets. Like we're going over a fucking cliff here. I mean, you had two of the oldest candidates in history, polarizing candidates, and there's no way to walk it back because things are going to get worse for either whoever wins the next presidency, and the rest of this Trump's presidency. Things are going to keep on going in a downward direction. It's just going to happen. There's no silver lining. There's no, it's just it's the beginning of the end of the system that we all are dependent on. And so, I mean, we know that because they've announced their plans about it. The people who run the system, we know that they said in 2030, people will rent everything and love it, right? So how bad do things have to get when people won't own anything and they'll love it? You know, like who's going to love that, right? What has to be sold to them? What has to happen so that's like, you know, oh, I'm glad that I have a place to live, right? I don't care if I don't own anything anymore, as long as I got a fucking roof over my head, some food. Like that's how bad things have to get in the next 5 years for that to happen.
Garden, you got to prune every tree if it's going to grow healthy, and there is a point where that can be. What do you make of this? I mean, the most famous example is the Buckley and the Birch Society, right? In the was that 60s or 70s?
John Birch Society, 50s, 60s.
50s, 60s. All right. I mean, so that's the most famous example. But what do you make of that as a larger question?
I'm sure you guys have seen this meme that has gone around the last few months, and I have it here on my computer. I look at it like daily, and I think about it a lot. And
is it Erica's dressed as the grieving widow costume?
This meme where there's a giant dam, and it's labeled Charlie Kirk, and it's holding back this huge body of water, essentially craziness, and the dam is between this crazy body of water and then how we can actually unite and win. And I think about that a lot. And I think people are just now seeing posthumously how much Charlie was respected in that role. And
okay, again, it wasn't Charlie. I mean, whatever he did or didn't do, that had nothing to do with that. It was that people were freaked out about Biden. You had a lot of young people and young men who felt disenfranchised. And you had this, this resurgence in the possibility of a Trump election. And he was pushing back against a lot of things that everyone was upset about. And, they were running Kamala Harris and Biden. The left had huge problems. And so there was this enthusiasm that isn't going to be there in 2 years or 4 years. You don't have that enthusiasm when you're the incumbent. There's going to be no enthusiasm behind J.D. Vance. I mean, he's going to have to run against Trump. J.D. Vance is going to have to, basically disavow Trump if he runs for, and he's weird, J.D. Vance. So there's, you should know you're fucked right now. Trump didn't deliver, and he fucked up on the Epstein files, and you guys fucked up. But this has nothing to do with anything but, I want to wrap this up. This has one thing and one thing only, that you guys are on the wrong side of this fucking Charlie Kirk official story patsy thing. You are on the wrong fucking side. It's so bad. It's horrible, how bad you guys are fucked right now. And so TPUSK is done. And it's just, it isn't about Candace Owens or any of these other things. It's about your guys' quality of your content. You don't have anything. You don't have any talent. You don't have talent over there. You got people who can talk and, manage a show. But nobody wants to listen to these guys. I mean, like I said, half of these comments are usually negative, sometimes all of them. And they only got 7,000 views. If half of your views, what do they have, a dislikes to likes here? This video has 16,000 views, and it's got 270 dislikes. I tried to find out how many dislikes, but they don't tell you. They stopped telling you how many dislikes, but it's got 270 likes. And they know on their end, because, on my thing, it shows the percentage of likes to dislikes. And mine's always in the 90s. Mine, I don't think there's been a video I've had that's gone under 90% likes. And I say shit all the time that should piss people off. But, only 270 likes, right? I mean, that's pathetic. Let's go see my thing here. So, here are the likes to dislikes. So, to this video that's gotten 4,000 views, I have more likes than they do. These are the ones I just put out, the Journey series. 98%, 96%, right? So they know, and they got way more dislikes to likes. So all their videos are getting ratioed, as they call it. But, their dislikes to likes, where are they here? They got 270 likes and 16,000 views. And so they're getting, on that particular video, they're getting 3 times more views than I'm getting. And so, I'm getting more likes than they are on my videos. and they're getting many more views on that. But so that means two-thirds of their video is dislike, at least, maybe even more, probably 3/4. And so like that sucks, bro. Especially when you're getting no views. Like you guys your channel's dead. You're fucking stick a fork in it, right? Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this video up here. It's gonna be up tomorrow. It'll be Christmas Eve. And there really hasn't been any comments, certainly no negative comments. I have a few little ones I'm going to address here. And I don't know if this is one of them. Okay, so that's an old one I've already done. So there's 3 comments up here I just read. And the first one is, that's not it. So there's only 2. And there might be some new ones. I'll check those real quick. But for the video with a commercial every 4 minutes, 4-hour video with a commercial every 4 to 5 minutes, do you count the commercials you run per video? I'm sick of hitting the skip while trying to listen, so I ended your video at 45 minutes. Well, Jesus, you made it that long. I wouldn't have lasted that long. I have no control over it, and I've talked to YouTube about it, and I've tried to figure out how I can, it's either I post individual commercials on my videos, and like that'll take so much time. And it's like, it's a whole new learning process of me going in and posting videos at the place. I can go to a page situation where people have to subscribe and pay per video, or go based on all donations. But if that, and people don't want to pay, then that's what you're stuck with. So like I have to get financially compensated for my work. I don't love having YouTube ads on my videos. So if there was some other way, I would do it that way. I'm not a businessman. I don't have any, if I had advertisers and I could, do whatever, but I'm not going to get that. I don't have that ability. I'm not negotiating with that. I don't know who the fuck would advertise on my channel. And so, it's not, it sounds like a you problem. Paul, you are, Mandela affected again. It's now the picture of Dorian Gray. So I said that, it was the portrait of Dorian Gray. That's how I remembered the movie. And I don't know if it was a TV show. I don't know if it was a book as well. But I was talking about this movie I saw when I was a kid called The Portrait of Dorian Gray, where this guy got old. His portrait got old, but he didn't. And it was clear portrait. It wasn't a picture. Very old movie, like a black and white movie, it was an old movie when I was a kid. So, we're talking about a movie that's like 100 years old or 80 years old or something like that. And, I remembered it as The Portrait of Dorian Gray. Any of you guys who saw it, you guys can talk about that. But I don't know why I would call it The Portrait, because I'm not a portrait person. I very seldom would use the word portrait. And so the picture of Dorian Gray doesn't make any sense at all, because it was not a picture. It was a painting, which was a portrait of him. And so if you guys remember it as a portrait as well, then that would be another Mandela effect thing where everybody remembers something one way and it's now a different way. So I'm looking it up now, and it says the picture of Dorian Gray is the novel by Oscar Wilde, and find the portrait of Dorian Gray on Savor Classic Novels. And so Amazon has it find the portrait. So I think people are looking up the portrait of Dorian Gray. There was also a movie. Why is the picture of Dorian Gray was controversial in Victorian England for its perceived promotion of immorality, aestheticism, and Wilde's homoeroticism. Anyways, the movie was 1945. So, again, the movie was from 1945. The book was from 1890. And so why would Oscar Wilde call it The Picture when it was a portrait? They didn't even have cameras back then. And it wasn't a camera, it wasn't a photo. the title, The Portrait of, it was criticism knows that the earlier story written by Wilde titled The Portrait of Mr. W.H. and published in 1899 had several themes and styles in the novel. So, you know, this idea of, so that he had another thing called The Portrait of Somebody Else, or some portrait thing. It was in the title. And so there wasn't pictures back then, there was portraits. So I don't know. Like, you know, I mean, they have all these things that people say. It's like a glitch in the matrix and things have been changed. And maybe it's a way for people to see that this is a simulation. I don't know. So you guys can tell me if you remember it the same way or not. Somebody writes here, I'm just going through any new comments. Can we ask about TPUS gays tax returns, shady stuff going on there? Well, you can ask, but I'm not going to go do their taxes for them. I'm not going to go through all that shit for them, because, you know, why would I? That's the nightmare. Like, people do comb through their financial documents, but that's never going to be me. I don't care about that much to have to sift through people's financial documents. You know, it's hard to really say what's going on with TPUS Gay and Erica J. Kirk, Monica J. Kirk, because either they're the most clueless and oblivious people in the history of the world, or they are, you know, in terms of an organization, so tone deaf and are just shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. Or they're doing this intentionally to, you know, keep people sucked into it, and this is all part of it. And it's really hard to say, and really we'll probably never know. And, you know, we'll all stop paying attention to them in about, you know, a month or two, whatever it is. I'll stop covering it and people will move on. I mean, this is, you know, who knows how long this story will last or how long people will be concerned. But in a year from now, you know, it won't be anything. And there'll be so much other shit happening, especially if we have, like, real fucking, you know, World War III things or apocalyptic things going on. But it's a very strange thing. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. This is Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.